The Silent Empire. Esteban Rivadeneira was always known as a man who could not be stopped. To many, he was a symbol of success, a benchmark in the business world, a case study, the kind of person who seemed to have life completely figured out. But few knew that behind that flawless image lived a human being held together by worn-out threads. His public life was brilliant. Conferences in different countries, covers of financial magazines, interviews where he spoke about leadership and vision. At a young age, his name appeared on the lists of the most influential entrepreneurs in Latin America. His conglomerate had offices in Bogotá, Mexico City, Miami, and Madrid. Thousands of employees depended on his vision. But his private life was a field of ruins. Esteban had become an expert at hiding wounds. Since childhood, he had seen exhaustion in his parents' eyes. His mother, Rosa, worked in 3 houses at the same time, cleaning floors and washing clothes to keep the family afloat. His father, Samuel, was a mechanic, but his workshop was always on the verge of shutting down due to a lack of customers. From a young age, Esteban heard the phrase that would mark his entire existence: "If we don't work until we break, we don't eat." He absorbed that idea as a sacred law and decided he would never go hungry. But unconsciously, he decided something darker as well, that he was only worth what he achieved. That belief became both his fuel and his destruction. In his early years as an entrepreneur, Esteban was passionate, creative, and full of energy. But as his company grew, he began to feel a deep anxiety about control. Nothing could fail. Nothing could move without him. Nothing could change unless he approved it. He became a prisoner of results, obsessed with never losing. Over the years, his marriage to Lucia, the woman who had been by his side before he was anyone, began to deteriorate. She tried to stay close, to understand him, to be patient when he was a storm. But Esteban no longer saw her. His mind was always somewhere else, in meetings, contracts, numbers, problems that didn't even exist yet. His son, Santiago, grew up without knowing what a family lunch with his father felt like. Esteban was physically present some nights, but emotionally he was always far away. He slept little, ate fast, thought too much, felt almost nothing. His heart had changed direction. It no longer belonged to his family. It belonged to his fear of failure. But life never leaves wounds unopened. Everything began with a phone call at 3 in the morning. One of his largest companies, a technology firm, was under a cyber attack. Sensitive data had been compromised. Investors were panicking. The technical team didn't know what to do. Esteban jumped out of bed and threw himself into chaos. He went more than 48 hours without sleep, drinking coffee like an addict, shouting orders, insulting anyone who didn't move at his speed, making decisions from panic instead of clarity. On the 3rd day, something inside him shut down. First, the air felt heavy. Then his heart began to race uncontrollably. His hands trembled. His vision blurred. And suddenly, he collapsed to the floor like an old tree finally giving in to the weight of its own branches. His team found him unconscious and rushed him to the hospital. The doctors were blunt. His body had collapsed from extreme stress. If he continued this way, he wouldn't make it to 45. Esteban had never been afraid of a board meeting, a financial crisis, or a tense negotiation. But this was different. For the first time in years, he felt real fear. Fear of dying without having lived. Fear of leaving his son without a father. Fear of realizing he had run so far just to end up empty. That night, Lucia visited him. She no longer cried. She had moved from sadness to resignation. She sat in front of him and said, "Esteban, I can't keep feeling like I lost you years ago while you're still alive. I can't keep raising our son alone while you destroy yourself. I love you, but I can't keep living like this." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She didn't beg. She simply told the truth. And that truth pierced Esteban like a knife. When she left the room, he stayed there staring at the white ceiling, wondering how he had ended up so far away from the boy who once dreamed of having a united family. After leaving the hospital, Esteban made a decision that was unthinkable for a man like him. He disappeared. He took a 1-month leave, disconnected his phone, his email, everything. He got into his truck and drove to a farm he had inherited from his father, a place he hadn't visited since his teenage years. There, in the middle of the mountains, he met a neighbor who lived next door. His name was Mateo Herrera, an older, quiet man who spent his days reading, walking, and tending a small garden. Esteban met him by accident when he went out for a run and got lost on a trail. Mateo found him sitting under a tree, struggling to breathe. "Are you tired?" the old man asked calmly. "You're broken." Esteban looked at him, surprised. Mateo had a kind of calm that disarmed anyone. "Who are you?" Esteban asked defensively. "Someone who stopped fighting life," the old man replied. Those words sounded absurd, even irritating, to Esteban. But there was something in Mateo's eyes that he didn't have. Peace. Mateo invited him into his home, gave him water, offered him a chair. The walls were filled with books, philosophy, history, art. Esteban flipped through one and saw a sentence underlined. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it." Epictetus. Mateo noticed his expression. "I can see you're hungry," he said. "Hungry for food?" Esteban asked. The old man smiled. "No. Hungry for silence." Over the following days, Esteban began to visit him. At first, they talked about simple things, the weather, the countryside, scattered memories. But little by little, Mateo began to teach him something that would change his life. Stoic philosophy, not as theory, not as abstract ideas, but as a way of living. "The world will always try to shake you," Mateo said. "But you don't have to let it enter your mind. You don't control whether people criticize you. You control whether it affects you. You don't control the economy. You control your response to it. You don't control death, but you do control how you live." Each sentence felt like a stone striking and awakening parts of Esteban's soul that had been asleep. One afternoon, Mateo asked him, "What hurts you the most?" Esteban took a long time to answer. When he finally did, his voice broke. "Knowing I built an empire on the outside, but I have no home on the inside." Mateo nodded. That's the cost of living outward. Any businessman who only builds externally ends up destroyed internally. As the weeks passed, Esteban began to experience deep changes. He started meditating at dawn, writing his thoughts, observing without judging. He discovered that his entire life had been a chase for control, when the essence of Stoicism was the opposite, accepting what cannot be controlled and acting on what does depend on you. He realized he had lived to please, impress, and prove, and had never lived to be present. One day, Esteban broke down in tears in front of Mateo. He cried for his deceased father, for his mother working herself to exhaustion, for his broken marriage, for the son he barely knew, for himself, for chasing a world that never loved him back. Mateo hugged him like a father. "You're not losing everything, Esteban," he said. "You're beginning." When Esteban returned to the city, he was no longer the same man. The first thing he did was visit his son. Santiago looked at him with distrust. He didn't understand that long, sincere, clumsy hug, but he felt it was real. Then Esteban visited Lucia. He apologized without excuses, without masks, with truth. He told her that if she chose not to return, he would understand, but that he would work to become a man worthy of the love she had given him so many times. Lucia cried, not because he came back, but because she finally understood that he had found himself. The final test came when his conglomerate faced a brutal financial crisis. His team was shaking. Investors demanded fast decisions. The media announced his inevitable fall. But Esteban remembered. The wise man does not ask for the storm to stop. He becomes someone capable of navigating it. He made firm decisions, without fear, without ego, without anxiety. He sold companies that no longer added value, protected jobs, redesigned processes, bet on innovation, and led from calm. The results surprised everyone. The company not only survived, it grew. And Esteban became a global reference, not because of his money, but because of his mind. Years later, Esteban visited Mateo one last time. The old man was fragile, his health failing. "Thank you for rescuing me," Esteban said. Mateo smiled weakly. "I didn't rescue you. You remembered yourself. I only showed you the path." "Which path?" Esteban asked. The old man closed his eyes gently and replied, "The only one worth walking, the one that leads inward." Mateo passed away days later, but his legacy lived on, in Esteban, in his family, in his company, and in thousands of people who heard his story. And Esteban, the man who once wanted to conquer the outer world, ended up conquering the inner one. In the end, he learned the key word of Stoicism: invincibility. Not because you never fall, but because no one can take away your peace. If you're interested in Stoicism, personal growth, and life stories, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. And don't forget to follow us on all our social networks to stay connected with our community. Join the family of Stoic Stories.